Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Game of Thrones podcast. I'm your host, Carmine of Red Team Review, and I'm joined here once again by Preston Jacobs himself. What's up, Preston?
Not much. How's it going, Carmine? It's great to be here. What an episode. What an episode.
Jeez, Preston, you sound mighty different today. What's the throat thing?
I don't know. I'm very excited this week. I'm feeling very Chad Summerchild today.
Yes, the inner Chad Summerchild, of course. But guys, welcome back to the Game of Thrones podcast, where today we'll be discussing episode 8 of House of the Dragon. As always, we're available on SoundCloud and iTunes, so consider checking us out on those platforms, and if you do, please leave us a review. It'll help out a lot. Also, be sure to leave your comments down below. We may discuss it in the next episode. Okay, so, as some of you guys know, Preston has taken a small break so he can spend some time with his family, and we're recording this on a Tuesday, so he'll be gone for a couple of days. You may see this upload later on, and of course, the podcast must go on, so I asked Phil the Issues Guy to join me here today so we could discuss episode 8, and because the podcast this week was supposed to be on Preston's channel, I figured he could have something to upload to lighten the load a bit, since I'm sure the moment he's back, it'll be a mad dash to get some videos out. So if you're watching this on YouTube, then please be sure to leave a like so our boy can stay in the algorithm's good graces. Okay, so Phil, episode 8. Definitely the best episode so far, in my opinion. What did you think?
Yeah, not to echo your statements too much, but I definitely think it was the best episode. One thing that's for sure with this episode, as much as I was not necessarily feeling all of the time jumps, and we could break that apart later when we talk about something else, but I do have to say what it worked to its advantage is with Viserys. Checking in on him every 5 to 10 years or something, but it's almost adds to the shock value when you see him, like seeing Jason's mask when it gets taken off at the end of a Friday the 13th movie. So I also agree. I think this was the best episode of the season. There's not much for me to complain too much other than some of the casting choices that I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later. Or it's not even the casting choices. It's the how some of the actors look aged up. It seems like some look a little older, some got a little younger, some got a little shorter. And that stuff doesn't matter too much, but it is worth mentioning and having some fun with.
Wait, who got shorter? Is it Aegon? Aegon got shorter?
Yeah, doesn't seem like Aegon got a little shorter.
I think he got shorter because Aemon just shot the fuck up.
He's taken that dragon growth hormone. Too much of that.
And I'm surprised you said when Viserys took off the mask. I'm surprised you said Jason instead of Gus Fring from Gus's death scene in Breaking Bad, because that's what it reminded me of.
That's actually very accurate. He went from the Crypt Keeper to Skeletor to Gus Fring with his face blown off. But I thought this was an amazing episode, especially by Paddy Constantine, and he's getting a lot of respect for the episode. But the other Viserys in this episode also delivered an amazing performance. If you rewatch the scene when the babies are introduced to the king in bed, the baby looks at him. The baby must have been horrified by that makeup. Some amazing baby acting in that scene.
Let's see what Preston thought, because I thought the episode was great, but Preston, he texted me his notes on what he thought of the episode. Hold on, it's right here. I'll read off some of his notes here. He says, very strong performance, especially from Viserys. So we're all in agreement here. Viserys, Paddy Constantine did a very good job. Every scene with him shines. His walk, the dinner, his death, incredible. Yeah, so I saw something that Winter is Coming said on Twitter, and they said that how Amazon spent millions of dollars on Rings of Power, and nothing's Rings of Power has dished out so far could top an old man walking towards the throne. Yeah,
I would agree with that. I haven't watched all of Rings of Power, but that was the best scene of the season for me. It was just super powerful, and it's one of those scenes that definitely would rank up if I'm making an all-time television Song of Ice and Fire list. It's the first scene for me personally. I'm sure other people might have some other ones, and there's been some great scenes so far, but that's the first one from this series I would put into a ranking order. This episode, you said it in your review, and I agree. It's not that other stuff didn't feel on that level, but this is the first episode I rushed to want to rewatch. And I don't know what that says about the whole season. It's not that I haven't rewatched the episodes, but this one I've watched more than any of the other ones. I can't get enough of this one. And I think part of it, and I don't know, this is where I'll get a little serious for whatever it's worth. I think this episode also did an excellent job of simulating the feeling of what it's like watching someone you care about, a relative or a loved one of some ways, dying. And those last minute feelings, the moans, the screams, the help me up, the moments that they come back for a second and then they disappear immediately right after. All of that was very, almost painfully accurate. And I thought that was played well with everyone around them. And the other thing, Carmine, I don't know about you, but this was the first episode that Emma Darcy completely won me over as Rhaenyra.
Really? This is the episode that did it? Well, to be fair, in episode 6, yeah, I can see that.
I was still a little, I had post-traumatic Millie disorder. I was just like, I still miss her. But this is the first episode. I'm like, oh, okay. She brought something special for me in her interactions with her father, in the way that the relationship somewhat repaired with Alicent at times too, and we could see the not trusting but trusting looks between the two of them, and everything with her and Daemon was great. But yeah, I definitely think this was my favorite episode of this season for sure.
See, you say that now, but the moment the next episode drops, episode 9, the moment it comes out, everyone's gonna say, "Oh, this is the best one so far." And here's the thing, though: I don't know if we're gonna have a dreaded episode this season, because that's Game of Thrones. That's Dave and Dan. That was their formula. The episode 9, the penultimate episode, is always the one episode that shakes the story and just goes that extra mile. I don't know if we're gonna have that for House of the Dragon, because Ryan Condal probably wants to do his own thing. But you say that about episode 8 now. A buddy of mine who hooks me up with the episodes, he saw it. He already saw episode 9, and according to him, episode 9 somehow surpassed episode 8 as his favorite. Wow. And he loved episode 8.
And come on, Carmine, we both know that it's like Bobby Buckle on Polly Walnuts that's giving it to you in the back of a truck somewhere. Getting that episode.
Is that a Sopranos quote?
Yeah.
Is that a Sopranos reference?
I'm just random Sopranos bullshit. But yes, I think that's an amazing part of this season, just from a television standpoint. And again, we'll get into time jumps later. I'm not the biggest fan of all of the choices of the time jumps.
Actually, let's get into it now, if you don't mind, because I have here Preston's notes. He says, the time jumps are brutal. Rhaenys suffers the worst. I'm supposed to believe that she would suddenly be okay with Rhaenyra after 5 years of brewing on Laenor's death. Her character has never been consistent, and it's sad. Rhaenys has always been that one character who I think her only purpose so far in season 1 is to remind everyone about the Iron Throne and how Westeros passes over women as rulers.
It's a shame. It's a shame, because I feel like that's one of the things that if you had more episodes, and we're going to get into a little bit later some of what George said in a blog post about this, but if you had 13 episodes per season of this show instead of 10, you could have more time to flesh out some of those things. I think it's interesting where they've chosen to pause and when they choose to fast forward time. Certain things, people do get the shaft. I feel like there's whole plot lines that were set up at certain parts in the season that they never followed up on because they were rushing through, like Daemon, when there's a scene when he's greeted by someone from the Riverlands, goes, "You're gonna have to deal with killing your wife, and we'll deal with that later when I come to hear about my claim." What happened with that? What happened with Daemon's claim with all of that? I don't know. That just got skipped over.
Right. The guy from the Vale, the man from Runestone, one of the Royces. Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, the cousin of his wife.
So in the book, when Daemon goes back to the Vale to claim his dead wife's title and lands and finances and all that, not only does Jane Eyre turn him away, but she also banishes him from the Vale. So that's a whole thing. So far, we haven't seen Jane Eyre. I think she might be mentioned maybe later on. She should be, at least in episode 10. I don't think we're going to get Cregan Stark or Jane Eyre this season. I think everything is mostly focusing on Targaryens and somewhat minor characters around them. But yeah, for the most part, I think a lot of this is going to be season 2. But I get what you're saying. The time jumps are just, what are you going to do? They're brutal sometimes, but for the most part, I think the show has handled them fairly well.
Yeah, the show's good, so it's hard to fault them for what they're doing exactly, but would it have benefited from that? Yes, because that's the kind of TV I like. I like slower moving shows like Better Call Saul, The Wire, stuff that really builds and you learn about characters over long periods of time. This show is a different tactic in the way that they're making sure every episode has some sort of big bang. And I also, as I mentioned earlier, I think it adds to the watching Viserys be even more decrepit in every single episode after a time jump. That adds a little bit of weight to that. So I get them wanting to get to the stuff, but they definitely could have taken their time a little bit. But the show is good. The show is good. And there were certain scenes in this episode where I really do think they took their time. The dinner scene, the Arrested Development dinner scene was just a bloody mess. And Aemon in this episode, the actor may look like he, as I said, took that dragon growth hormone and he shot up. And you're right. Maybe that's why Aegon looks so much smaller. And it's the hair, too. They shouldn't have cut his hair. But
Aegon looks like Draco Malfoy from Harry Potter.
he does a little bit. He really does. But Aemon focusing his eye on everybody and being the asshole at dinner, I definitely was loving that. I'm enjoying that character from a antagonist troll standpoint. He was just waiting for an opportunity. When Jace stood up and was going to create a scene, but then changed it and was like, "I'm going to toast Aegon and pat him on his back." He stands up like, "Oh, I'm ready to get this on," and then he has to wait till the pig comes out, and Luke can't help but laugh at him because of the pig from the former episode, and he got up and made a whole big thing, and I enjoyed that, and I enjoy him and Daemon facing off, and Daemon looking at him like this guy's going to be a problem, and I love how he smiled at Daemon when Daemon took off Vaemon's head. He enjoyed that more than anyone in the whole entire court. He's like, that's what I would have done.
Speaking of the Vaemon scene, Preston here writes, the Vaemon scene was very interesting. The choice to make the Velaryons black with the choice to make the paternity of Jace and Luke certain creates such a powerful farce. I still think I would have preferred Jace and Luke's paternity to be more ambiguous, but this scene in general was quite striking from the choices they made. So for those of you who don't know, in the books, a lot of the questions between Rhaenyra's kids are ambiguous, but in the show, Ryan Condal is determined to answer all of it, like even in the other random mysteries posed in the books. And I know what Preston means about it being ambiguous, and I kind of agree because there is fun to speculate and all that, but at the same time, I also like that we are getting definitive answers to like not only this, but like everything else as well. I also can't help but feel bad for Vaemon because he's not wrong about her kids. They're definitely not Velaryons, but at least if Luke marries one of the girls, then at least their child will be kind of Velaryon, so
Carmine, I agree with you to a certain extent, but it's the Big Lebowski thing with Walter. You're right, but you don't have to be an asshole about it. Know the room, read the situation. He starts getting into this. I love how Daemon goes all Sam Kinison. He's like, say it from Back to School. But he the way he went about it in that situation, once the king walked in, he probably should have waited till the king died and tried this again. Wait to see what happened with the sea snake. The way he just screams, "Your kids are bastards!" I don't know. I mean, that was a great line read, but it was just a dumb move. Do you think at that point, like once the king walked in, he was going on sort of like a kamikaze thing there? He knew he was going to get killed, and he just went out shouting so he could go out the way he wanted to go out? Or what do you think he was trying to accomplish in that scene, Carmine, after he didn't rule his own way? Or was he just bitter and couldn't help himself?
My man got caught up in his own emotions. It happens to the best of us, and he lost his head for it. Which is funny, too, because in the books, I believe, there are some Velaryons who come and protest this, and they have their tongues cut out for it. And I think later on, if I remember correctly, some of them do join the Greens when the Civil War starts. So you're right, he should have just waited a little longer.
Just a little longer.
Just a tad. I mean, to be fair, no one expected Viserys to come out with that boss entrance, but, Otto Hightower was gonna side with Vaemond and have those fleets on his side because he's gonna need them.
Oh yeah, they had the backroom deal. Did you read that the scene where the crown fell down?
Improvised.
Yeah, it was completely improvised. It's really awesome.
Love it.
And for those of you that have seen the movie The Replacements, I only recently realized that Viserys is the kicker in the Keanu Reeves football movie, called The Replacements. Gene Hackman's also in that movie too.
I've never seen that. Keanu Reeves is in this?
Yeah, and Jon Favreau too plays like the main linebacker. It's the same typical sports football. The underdog team wins. It's about like the NFL players go on strike, and then there's a bunch of replacement players. Keanu Reeves is the quarterback on the team, and Viserys is the kicker.
Oh, that's really interesting. Oh, shit. I love Jon Favreau. He's great.
Yeah, and Jon Favreau is the crazy linebacker that beats everybody up.
Preston here also writes, Alicent, she makes no sense this episode. She's ready to forgive Rhaenyra after a toast, after being established as a forced abortion-giving religious zealot. See, I don't know if I can, religious zealot, okay, I'll give you that, but forced abortion giver, what is she gonna do? We can't have any Targaryen bastards running around, then we get the Blackfire situation all over again. It's just, people using them to put claims out. And in the next episode preview, we will be getting Game and Pale Hair, so that's a thing. But, I don't know. This episode really made Alicent very sympathetic, in a sense. I know some people are going to get on my case and call me a Green support and all that. I'm not on anybody's side, but they definitely changed Alicent up from her book counterpart, who's just the evil stepmother.
But she's also pretty dumb. I mean, in the scene with Viserys, I understand that she cares, but I agree with Preston that a lot of her motivations in this episode doesn't make a lot of sense. That makes sense. Her whole situation of dealing with that. And I do want to ask you the question that some people are asking before we get into this. Do you think that Alicent poisoned that girl, or did she just give her the morning after tea?
I think she gave her the moon tea. I don't think everyone wants to see Alicent as like this evil villain, and maybe on some level she kind of is, but at the same time, she's just a bitter woman. Like, you're forced to marry this older man and be a child-making factory for his kids. It leaves you bitter, There was supposed to be a scene, I don't know if you heard about this, the deleted scene that Emily Carey, young Alicent, talked about, where she confesses her love of Christian Cole to Rhaenyra.
Yes, I did hear that. And what's interesting, though, and again, to piggyback on what Preston was saying, I feel like she ping-ponged a bit too much in this episode. All it took... Are we to believe legitimately? I know Otto probably wouldn't have let it happen, or other factors wouldn't have let it happen, but are we to believe that all it took was Rhaenyra to do a tasteful toast to Alicent, and Alicent was ready to just accept Rhaenyra as queen?
I don't know. I think Alicent found God in the 6-year time skip. And
okay, let's see that. I guess am I supposed to know that because she put up all the decorations? Am I just to assume that Alicent got religion?
Yeah, she's wearing her hair up. She's more conservative. Had the little stars and all that.
Good for her. I didn't know that. All I knew was she forgave Rhaenyra pretty damn quick, and then turned it around that the prince that was promised, blah, blah, blah. I get the mishap, and I get the understanding. I guess it adds a little bit more motivation to Alicent, but I also think it makes Alicent seem very stupid. Because why would Viserys, in the moment in the dinner, be so adamant, right, like the day before, the same day he died? This isn't like a week later. This is the same day. Mm-hmm. And then, no. He just wanted to keep that secret until he was alone with Alicent and finally tell her that, no, he wanted Aegon to be king. Come on, dude. You just heard what you wanted to hear in that moment, Alicent.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's an element to that. Preston's notes here, he also says, the reunion aspect of the show is also weird, as last episode was also a reunion. We had no time exploring these characters apart from each other. Narratively, it feels like they have never been apart despite being apart for years. We really need that downtime to understand what the characters are feeling. Yeah, I hear that. I kind of agree that this season probably should have been maybe 12, 13 episodes, so we could have spent more time with the characters, because it really does feel like some of the previous episodes were cliff notes just to get to the final 3. Because 8, 9, and 10 is when this is the final time skip from what I hear. 8, 9, 10 is where it really goes down. So it seems like everything from episodes 2 to 7 were just setting up 8, 9, and 10. But earlier you said George briefly touched on that, how we needed more episodes, and he said this on his blog post. What was that about?
George, on his Not a Blog post, talked about a lot of things about this season about his excitement for it, but he did get into the time jumps. He said he didn't want to make any official statement about it, but there are only so many minutes in the episodes. It would have been great to see a relationship between Rhaenyra and Sir Harwin, the marriage of Daemon and Laena, and Pentos, the birth of various kids. Yes, Alicent gave 4 children, not 3, but we didn't have time to work because of the time skip. If we had maybe 13 episodes, we could have done something, but I'm paraphrasing a little bit. Though we would have had to risk some viewers complaining that the show was too slow and that nothing happened. So Carmine, do you think they made the right decision by making it the pacing fast? Do you think 13 episodes in a slower pace would have turned more people away? And because so much pressure was on the success of this series for a Song of Ice and Fire universe, they felt like this series needed to be as punchy as possible and have every episode have some sort of boom.
See, I don't know if I agree with it being slow, because like you said earlier, The Wire is slow, and people still, remember that fondly. Sopranos, that can be slow at times too, right?
Yep, absolutely. Breaking Bad builds up at the first couple of seasons. Deep Space Nine is one of my favorite shows, and I know I'm bringing up Star Trek again here, but Deep Space Nine is one of my favorite shows. But those first 2 seasons are a slog sometimes, but they're so important to build in all that stuff about Bajor so that later in the series, when the Cardassians come back, it means more. So you needed that foundation, but seasons 3 through 7 are fast paced. I think Breaking Bad was the same way. The beginning, you lay that groundwork. But what was interesting about House of the Dragon is even in those early episodes, they were story building, not character building in a lot of ways, because they didn't really slow down and take their time to flesh out character points. They just kind of pushed story beats along. And I people might disagree with that, but I feel like with the fast-paced stuff, and you miss out on a lot of character progression moments and seeing them go through that stuff. Like George was saying, seeing Rhaenyra and Sir Harwin build that trust that she mentions in this episode, or last episode she mentions, that she had a good relationship with him. Thank God she said that, because I wouldn't have known it. I didn't know did she treat him like Kristen Cole, like you're just an F toy, or did she actually trust him and bring him into her confidence? It would have been nice to see that. Same with Laena and Daemon and Laena's relationship. It seems like it would have been interesting to see all of that and see Laena bond with Vhagar, but they wanted to make Aemon's scene stronger, so they cut that. Maybe that was their thinking on that. But I don't know. I think everything shows work better with more episodes to flesh things out. And he also takes some shade at the original Game of Thrones here too. He says a fewer Beauty and the Beast. When I first started, television shows had 39 episodes. By the time I was writing for Beauty and the Beast, it was down to 22. Cable shrunk it even further. Sopranos had like 13 episodes per season. Then a few years later, Game of Thrones had only 10. And then in parentheses, he said, and not even that, those last 2 seasons.
It's
a little sass.
It's a little bit of sass. Okay.
Maybe I'm reading the sass into it, but I feel like that's a slight that they didn't need to make those last 2 and we're not going to talk about that, but those last 2 seasons should have been 10 episodes at least.
Well, to be fair, Game of Thrones having a lackluster ending, that blame goes around all over the place. You have George, who didn't finish the material, and then you have Dave and Dan, who didn't put their foot down because they originally wanted 7 seasons, and then they got convinced to do 8 by HBO, who begged them to do like more seasons, along with George, who wanted more seasons. If it's like at the same time, it's like, okay, we'll do more seasons, George, give us more material. And he's like, So yeah, blame goes all over the place. As for this, it's like, see, I can see season 1 in a perfect world having 12 episodes, but seasons 2, 3, and what else did he say in the blog post? He said he wanted how many seasons?
Yeah, he says to do this right. Let's see. As I continued to do the Dance and Dragons from start to finish, I hope to continue to be true. As I'm thrilled to still have 10 hours each week to tell the tale. I hope that will continue to be true. It's going to take 4 full seasons of 10 episodes each to do justice to the Dance of Dragons from start to finish. But right now, Ryan Condal's focus is on House of the Dragon, and mine is on, capital letters, Winds of Winter.
All right. Everybody calm down here. He's a funny guy. Add that to the list of things he's doing. Comedy on the side, other than writing wins. What else did he have?
Something else that George adds as well is how good Paddy Constantine's performance of King Viserys is. And he says, and I quote, "The character he created for the show is so much more powerful and tragic and fully fleshed out than my own version in Fire and Blood, that I am half tempted to go back, rip out those chapters, and rewrite the whole history of his reign." Paddy deserves an Emmy, yada, yada, yada. But no, George, concentrate on that thing at the end of your post, the working on Winds of Winter. We don't need you to go back and rewrite Fire and Blood. No thanks.
If they go into 4 seasons, I can see season 4 being like another 6 episodes. Because the only thing I'm worried about is them having filler. I don't want filler, but at the same time, if done well, it can be nice. Because most of the great houses of Westeros enter the conflict. Not all. I think the Tyrells and the Martells stay out of it for the most part. Like, the Tullys get into it. I know the Greyjoys get into it. The Red Kraken, he's in it. Unless they want to flesh out those characters like Grover and Elmo and Groucho Tully.
and the rest of Sesame Street.
That's basically it. So, I don't know, George. You could probably do 4 if the last season was cut down a little bit, but I can see a good sizable 3 seasons. Unless we can go beyond Dance of Dragons and all the way up to Robert's Rebellion. I'd be fine with that.
I mean, I think you'd need more than 4 seasons for that. And they've definitely talked about that too. They're just keeping House of the Dragon as an underlying title, and then House of the Dragon, Aegon's Conquest, House of the Dragon, Robert kicks somebody's ass. We might see that. My biggest question is, how long are we going to have to wait between seasons? You think it's going to be 2 full years between seasons?
Yeah, I think they're about to film. They might film season 2 maybe next year. They're probably gearing everything down.
Will Snow come out before season 2 of House of the Dragon?
No, they probably might film Snow. Like, you know what? I'll be honest. I kind of want to see what Snow has in store. I kind of people give me shit all the time for my idea for Snow, but what can you really do in Westeros anymore? The country's at peace. We had several years of civil war, the War of 5 Kings. Bran, the all-knowing, all-powerful, his reach extends all over Westeros. If anybody tries a rebellion, he's on it. He can squash that shit before it comes down. So
yeah, he'll warg into Drogon and go destroy somebody if he has to.
If he has to, sure. What I'm thinking is that Jon goes somewhere in Essos. I was thinking ET because not only does HBO get their diversity quota, but we get to see a part of Planetos we've never seen before. It's essentially ancient China in Game of Thrones world. So I guess you also have their own. Essos has their own White Walker legend with the 5 forts and all that. So maybe someone from Essos comes looking for Jon, hearing rumors that he defeated the White Walkers, and they're having their own issues. And then, we get a situation with Jon, like in the Kenobi show, where Jon...
Yeah, I was just going to say, I just don't want this to be Kenobi, full-on Kenobi. But...
Well, remember how in Kenobi, Obi-Wan sees visions of Anakin, in the distance? Maybe he'll see visions of Daenerys.
We're definitely getting Daenerys. Come on. We're getting everywhere. We're getting Robb flashback. I bet we get a Robb flashback season 2 of Snow if it hits.
I'd be down, hey, like a buddy adventure with him and Tormund. Fuck it, I'd be down. Why not?
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be fun. I mean, I'm more looking forward to see what they do with the Dunk and Egg thing. If I'm thinking about the future series, if this level of quality, I know it's a different creative team, goes into telling that story, that was the one I wanted, so that's the one I'm the most excited for to see moving forward. But I'm excited to see a Snow series too. I think it's funny that Kit Harington couldn't make anything else work, so he created this series for himself. It's good he has the self-referential to be like, this is my character. I'm not. No one's watching Gunpowder. No one's watching. What is he in Pompeii too? No one's watching Pompeii.
No one watched Eternals and shit.
Yeah, no one's watching anything else. But so bring back Snow. So I appreciate what he's doing, and it should be interesting. And I think we will see a lot of flashback moments in that series.
But no, this episode, once again, I thought it was fucking great. The next one is supposed to be even better, which we'll see if that's possible. But Paddy Considine, he's out now. His character's gone, and he will be missed. I felt bad for Viserys for the most of the series. A lot of people were saying he was weak and all that. The guy just wanted peace. He just wanted everyone to chill. He just wanted his family to have a good time. But of course, fucking Targaryens can't chill the fuck out.
The only time that they can chill out is when one of them murders someone in the middle of court. Then they all gather together for a fun dinner. That brought them all together. The fact that Daemon did that. It's like, okay, everyone. Oh, okay, let's have a good Targaryen celebration.
By the way, so you haven't been watching Rings of Power?
No, I'm going to binge watch the entire thing after House of the Dragon is over.
The reason I bring that up is because Preston and I were discussing it a while ago, and Rings of Power may have beaten House of the Dragon in the ratings, but I don't know if they're going to beat House of Dragons in like the overall tomato score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I saw that same rating system where Cobra Kai is still number one right now for watching, which is interesting. Several weeks after, almost a month or so after the season premiered. So I think that only takes in streaming numbers. But when it comes down to it, even though I haven't watched it, so this isn't personal opinion, this is just, maybe I'm biased, but I think if we're doing from the critical public opinion scale of which of those series won. I know people, it's not a competition. Whatever. Come on, we're talking about a series that's about the blacks versus the greens here. So everything's a fun competition. Just do it with a smile on your face. Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon has won this battle. Even if Rings of Power has a little bit higher ratings because of the Amazon distribution machine, I think the positivity around both series is this series is getting more of the glow. People are appreciating the acting and they're picking apart the series. Every problem that they were going to go in and say, there's a lot of people still angry about season 8. You don't hear that right now. You don't hear people.
You're right. There's a guy, by the way, on my channel. He commented this guy named Greg. He commented. I troll his ass every now and then too. I'll find him on YouTube and I'll find some of his comments, and he'll be like in a random YouTube video. I'll just find him and I'll just reply. It's because he commented on my video in the first week when House of the Dragon episode 1. He commented, "It's the series nobody wanted." That's right, Greg. The series nobody wanted. That's doing fantastic fucking numbers and doing amazing in the ratings. You're right. Nobody wanted this.
Every week getting more and more, and people are coming back to it and enjoying it. And yes, they are upset about the time jumps, but we're going to settle in a little bit now. I don't think, even if we do get some progression of time moving forward from this point, it's not going to be as jarring as what we got in season 1. We're settled into these characters for a while and we can really sort of stretch out. That's not to say everyone is feeling this show, and we never want to live in an echo chamber. My own ex-co-host, or he's going to be joining me again, but he's not joining on the House of Dragon. Joe is not feeling this series at all. There's a couple of people that comment on my videos that aren't feeling the series at all. So those people do exist. I would just say,
what's Joe's problem with the show?
I think he's having a bad attitude. No, he's. I think he watched a little bit of the first episode and he's like, I'm not. I think he's being a grumpy Oscar the Grouch, and he was just angry at everything because his criticisms are the most ridiculous criticisms I've ever heard.
Well, really, what are they? I'm curious.
It's about the acting and the cinematography. He was the only person I've ever heard that complained about the acting and the cinematography. He's like, I can't stand that. The acting's horrible. I'm like, the acting's horrible. I just hung up on him. I'm like, I can't talk to you. If you told me that the pacing isn't right, some of the story choices, maybe, which is a George thing, but if you're complaining about things like that, they're legit criticisms, even if they're nitpicky and fun. You break stuff apart. It's fun to rip things apart. But if anyone gets in my face and tells me the acting on this show is bad, I'm just going to laugh in their face because it's not. That's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous talk. Do you know what, just a random thought? I love how on House of the Dragon, whenever anyone enters a room, there's always that one guy yelling, and here comes Rhaenyra of House Targaryen. like no matter what room someone's coming into, that guy's just following along, waiting to yell. I want that job. If I could have any job, I mean, some might think I'd want the music, the bongo playing, the mushroom bongo player, but no. I would definitely want to be that guy.
The announcer guy for the royal court.
Carmine from Red Team Review in the house.
I feel like any excuse to do that echo thing. I love it.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was trying to set it up all night. I needed some excuse.
No, you're great. What else did George say in the blog post?
Basically that's it. I mean, a lot about Patty Constantine, yada yada yada. You're awesome. You're amazing. Which I'm not yada yadaing that to devalue it. It's just that usual Hollywood fart sniffing. Oh, he's great. He deserves an Emmy. If he doesn't get an Emmy, there's no justice. There's no justice. Better Call Saul didn't win Emmys. Shut up. I want to address the time jumps. He basically talks about that. He says that Daron is in the series. He confirms that.
Oh, okay.
He's in Old Town.
So for those of you who don't know, Alicent actually has 4 kids. Aegon, Helena, Aemond, and Daron. Daron is supposed to be in Old Town. Unfortunately, they couldn't get to him this season. I'm assuming that's season 2, which he's in Old Town right now, which is the Hightower stronghold, their city. And I guess he's just a squire for Alicent's uncle.
Helena is awesome in this episode. I had my favorite Otto moment when he loves that she took a piss out of Aegon. He's like yes, great toast. It was like my favorite Otto moment of the season. And yes, Carmine, she says that Alicent gave Viserys 4 children, 3 sons and a daughter. Their youngest son Daron is in Old Town. We just did not have the time to work him in the season, and everything else we had to skip.
Oh, this is George saying this.
That's George saying.
Oh, I was correct. Oh, sweet. Yay! Honestly, I'm glad that they didn't fucking put Daron in there, because at a certain point, it's just such an influx of characters. I'm actually fucking surprised that they even gave us little Aegon, and little Viserys in this episode. Yeah. And we even got to see little Joffrey. Of course, he's grown too. There's so many characters that they're going... And they're even going to give us more next episode, because, of course, Kingsguard, Eric Cargill was not in the show up until now, for some reason. I don't know why.
My name is Eric, not Arik.
Yeah, that guy, the twins. They're going to be in this. I think we're going to get maybe one more new character, maybe. And then we're also going to get Bartimos Celtigar in season 2. That's they're another Valyrian house. That's a thing. Season 2 is going to up the characters. We're probably going to get the dragon seeds, and that's like what?
We'll get Nettles in season 2.
Nettles, yeah. I'm pretty sure we'll get Nettles in season 2. For some reason, Misarya...
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Sorry. What was with that scene? What was with the... What was with the random Misarya scene that we had, and I'm mispronouncing her name, where she has a spy in King's Landing that told her everything? It just seemed so out of place in the episode.
Yeah, she has a spy in the Red Keep that keeps her up to date on what's happening inside the Red Keep, and I guess it's to remind us that she's still there. She was on all the posters for the promotional posters for House of the Dragon before the show came out, so I don't know why. I don't know.
It was so random. It was such a random scene in the episode.
They gotta remind us that she's still there, because I guess. Maybe Misarya will be behind the Game and Palehair thing, which becomes like a major plot point, probably going forward into season 3.
We needed to hear that accent again, because everything else in the episode was great, so they had to put one comical moment to hear her try to talk. I hear crazy things happen. I'm not even going to try to do it. But to your previous point, Carmine, about the characters, I'm not as well versed. I with Fire and Blood, I know the finer points, but I didn't break it down as well as you guys did in really understanding what happens to a certain extent. So even for me, being sort of a half of casual with this series, I got a little analysis paralysis with understanding some of the characters' names. Like when we get into Daemon's 2 daughters with Laena and Laena and Laenor, and the way it was, they were all introduced, and in every episode there were a different actor playing it. And when I start to think the relationship between the Targaryens, and you mix in the incest and stuff, and you're trying to go, wait, that's their uncle or their cousin, like their uncle cousin person, so it got a little confusing. So I do appreciate maybe them holding off on one more character. We didn't need to see yet another baby, but I do appreciate George mentioning that this character exists, because there has been some speculation because of everything with the family tree thing, with the picture not being on the family tree, and some people had speculation whether this character would be here. So I'm glad that he sort of just took it off the table. Like just said, yeah, we'll get to this character eventually. We just didn't have time to.
Like I said, man, prepare. Season 2 is going to introduce so many new characters. I don't want because this is one of the problems Game of Thrones had. And like, obviously I read the books, Preston read the books, but I feel bad for the casuals who haven't, because it's such an influx of characters. At one point, I was reading about this in the behind the scenes book. At one point, I think at season 3 or 4 or maybe 5, even the showrunners were saying, like, this is a problem. We have like 25 named characters that we have to cut to every time. And it's an issue. It's really hard to keep the story going for all these guys. Like every episode, we got to cut some of them down. And at one point, I know for a fact that there were fans of the show who really liked it, who couldn't remember every single character's name. They called Tyrion the dwarf character. They called Daenerys the Khaleesi. You know, the Hound. Most casuals don't even know the Hound's name is Sandor Clegane. Or the Mountain's name is like Gregor Clegane. They just know him as the Mountain, you know? So if casual fans get, overloaded with this crap, and the names aren't that simple, you have Aegon, and then Aegon 2, Aegon 3, Viserys 2, and then that's a whole thing. Lena, it's like a thing. Is that all that George said in the blog post, by the way?
Basically, I mean, he talks a lot more about how just House of the Dragon has brightened up his Sunday and how he kudos to everybody. He talks about the time jumps. He talks about some of the characters that were missing and how the show would have been benefited for 13 episodes, but he likes what everyone's doing. And of course, one more time, Carmine, he makes sure to remind you he is working on Winds of Winter.
Sure you are, you motherfucker.
Don't worry. Don't worry, guys. He's
I firmly believe we will get Winds of Winter. Hopefully he announces it. I'm being an optimist. Maybe after the season is done, maybe he'll announce it. Maybe this is
maybe it's reinvigorating it for him, and I think Preston's putting pressure on him now, doing this fan fiction thing. It's who will finish quicker.
That's true. Oh man, that's true. Oh boy. Oh man. Before we wrap this up, Star Trek Picard season 3 came out with the trailer. That looked like shit. That looked fucking terrible. What is happening,
dude? What is happening? In the point, like they didn't destroy. What is happening? They've destroyed Data, they've destroyed Q, and now they have to dig up the rest of the characters and make sure you put the final nail into all of them. Like, give me a break. I was fooled twice now. I don't even want to go back and listen to it, but there's a podcast that Preston, Carmine, and I did after like the first episode, or maybe the first 2 episodes of season 2 of Picard. We were all hopeful. We were like, oh, this could go somewhere. This could be good. I don't even want to talk about what happened in season 2. I blocked that from my memory. That got bad. That got as bad as season 1 was. I think I preferred it. That's how bad season 2 got for me. Season 3, they're reintroducing the original cast. I wish I was more excited for it, but the only aspect of the entire trailer I was moderately interested in, Carmine, is just the fact that we have Lore. But that makes no sense because Lore was disassembled by Data and pretty much destroyed. So someone would have had to go in and put Lore back together, or I don't know. They just had to get Brent Spiner in this thing somehow. Worf is a pacifist now, apparently. He's just walking around, today is not a good day to die. I am the pacifist. Peace. Like, come on. The only one that seemed somewhat interesting in the trailer was Riker, because Jonathan Frakes is just taking a piss out of everything, and he just has he's like, I direct episodes in the Orville. I'm making good Star Trek right now. Wait,
Jonathan Frakes directed episodes in the Orville?
Yeah, he did. He directed a few episodes.
The Orville is so good,
dude. It's so good. Did you watch season 3?
I finished the whole thing. I binged it. I don't. I'm a bad millennial. I don't binge, but that's the one thing I binged. It's so good, dude.
It's so good. It's on the level of the. And people can bite off my head for saying this, and I'm not. I have to reaffirm this every time I talk about the series. I'm not really a Seth MacFarlane fan. I like the first couple of seasons of Family Guy, but I'm not a huge fan of his. I went into this series with on the South Park versus Seth MacFarlane. I'm on team Matt and Trey all the way. I enjoy like the Cartoon Wars episode, watching them take a piss out of Family Guy, but whatever. This, to me, is the greatest thing he's ever done. You could just tell he really loves Star Trek and understands it, and all these amazing, unique characters. It feels on the level of the best seasons of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Season 3 especially. Seasons 1 and 2 are great, but season 3 took a quantum leap. Not the new quantum leap, gross. Took a quantum leap to being on the level of like top Trek. And I love that you watch it, Carmine. It's such a good series. The character Bortus is my favorite character.
Bortus. and it's so, oh my guys, if like honestly, The Orville is probably my favorite show, maybe of like the last 3 years. It's so fucking good. I will say though that Seth MacFarlane made there was a bit of maybe not. Like, the first season of The Orville, they focused mostly on his character, but as it went on, the focus from his character kind of shifted to most of the crew. And the crew got a lot more, in season 2 and 3, the crew of The Orville got a lot more screen time than his character did, and I kind of commend him for that. Because, yeah, he's the creator of the show, he's like, the main guy behind the whole thing, but he's kind of taken a back seat. And a lot of people were a little afraid to get on The Orville because it's supposed to be Star Trek, but funny. Kind of, but as the season's gone on, like, they're jokes, but it becomes less jokey and more serious.
Yeah, the joke is more that it's just like everyday life at this point. Like the comical aspects are more fish out of water moments, Bortus doing something silly, similar to Worf or Data comedy moments in Star Trek. And I agree. I almost give Seth MacFarlane credit in the way that I give Jerry Seinfeld credit on Seinfeld. He knew that the other 3 people on there were 3 of the most talented comedic television actors of all time, and he's not a great actor. And I like Seth MacFarlane in the series. I think he works for the captain, but I don't think acting is his strong suit. But he works in this role, especially when he's limits the focus on him, because Isaac and Bortus and I forget the pilot and the engineer. I forget both of those characters' names, but all of them are far more engaging and interesting characters. And Cassidy Yates, the Dr. Cassidy Yates, is an amazing character as well, and her kids. Like, the whole cast as a whole, as an overall show, works. Seth MacFarlane isn't the best, for me, the best actor. He reminds me too much of Peter Brady. Every time he's on screen, I'm like, oh, that's freaking Peter Brady.
I hope they renew it for season 4, but you know what? If they don't, that's okay, because at least it ended. See, the way season 3 ended, that could have been the series finale right there, and it would have been perfect.
Waterworks this season. So many of the episodes, I just lost it and started to cry, like because it was that good of a series. And yeah, I highly recommend it if you're a Star Trek fan. And to your point, yeah, I think people stayed away from it because they thought it would be Family Guy in space. And it's not like that. I mean, it's not even comparable to Futurama, which is a different kind of take on a sci-fi series. Equally good in a different way, but it's actually like watching another ship in the Star Trek: The Next Generation fleet. That's what it feels like watching. It's just another ship's tails instead of the Enterprise, and that's the biggest credit you can give Seth MacFarlane for the series.
Phenomenal. Once again, audience, I know we've been off topic for a bit, yes, but guys, definitely check out The Orville. It is worth your time, especially if you like Star Trek. Very worth your time. But overall, I really liked episode 8. I thought it was great. Once again, from what I'm told by my guy, episode 9 is even better, if that's possible. Ooh. Some people may not think so, because there are a lot of really good character moments in 8 that you don't really get as much in episode 9, but still very good. It really does feel like Game of Thrones is back. It really does. And
I can't believe we're actually here. I can't believe Game of Thrones, they did it. They did what I thought couldn't necessarily be done, in the sense of just from a public perception of A Song of Ice and Fire on television, they've turned it around from season 8, from the end of Lost, end of How I Met Your Mother, point of the end of Game of Thrones, of that one of the worst received endings. It showed how hungry people were for good fantasy television, and that's what the show is. Even with its warts, even being able to pick it apart, it's good fantasy television.
Dexter redeemed itself, right, with its spinoff?
And then they bumbled the ball again
No.
and did another bad ending. I'm not going to spoil what happens in it, but Dexter did the reverse Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Instead of having two decent good season series finales, they brought it back to do it again and bumble the ball again, Carmine. It was horrible. It was just as bad as the first one, maybe even worse.
No shit. I'm almost curious though. I've never actually seen Dexter, so I was wanting to maybe start it, but hearing that they got a really shitty finale.
Yeah, it's again, to bring up another Seinfeld thing. It's if you find out someone's a bad breaker-upper, do you even want to date them in the first place? That's half the relationship. Knowing that the series ends bad, do you want to start it? I mean, you've warned me for years against starting True Blood because you're like, it's good at the beginning, but you don't want to get to that end.
The first 3 seasons are fucking phenomenal. After season 3, it goes sharply downhill. So bad. But Phil, do you mind if we wrap it up here?
Absolutely.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we'll see you again next time. Have a good one.